the hospital always feels familiar to me. I walk the same halls, do the same rounds, and check on the same patients. But today, something was different. As I passed the water cooler, I noticed a man sitting alone. His posture was tense, his face hidden in his hands. Something about the way he sat made it clear that he was in distress. He wasn't a patient. He was a visitor. The usual calm of the hospital seemed to weigh heavier in the air. I approached him cautiously, wondering if something was wrong. "Are you okay?" I asked quietly, my voice carrying a gentle concern. The man looked up slowly, his eyes locked onto mine. He was older than I expected, with a weary expression that didn't match the usual visitors I encounter. He didn't seem angry, just lost, like someone who had just received bad news. "My wife was just brought in," he said, his voice thick with worry. "I don't know what's going on. I'm overwhelmed." His words seemed to hang in the air, and I could hear the pain in his voice. Something about him felt familiar, though I couldn't place it. I could see the tears in his eyes, but his smile was forced, almost as if he was trying to convince himself everything would be fine. I nodded sympathetically, but as I watched him, I couldn't shake the feeling that I knew him from somewhere. His face seemed almost too familiar, but I couldn't remember where I'd seen him before. It was unsettling. "I understand," I said softly, trying to offer some comfort. "She's in good hands. Her condition is stable for now." He nodded slowly, his gaze dropping again as he fought to hold back his emotions. But just before I could say anything else, he stood up. His voice cracked slightly as he said, "I need to be strong for her." With that, he turned away from me. I watched him walk off, feeling a strange sense of unease wash over me. As I made my way through the hospital, my mind kept returning to that man. There was something about his words, his voice, that wouldn't leave me. I couldn't explain it. Maybe it was the way he smiled, or the way he tried so hard to hold himself together. I couldn't stop thinking about him. I tried to focus on my patients, but I kept catching myself thinking about his expression. I had seen so many visitors come and go in the hospital, but none had left an impression on me like this. What was it about him that felt so significant? Later, I returned to the nurse's station, hoping to push the thoughts aside and finish my work. I was just about to take a break when I felt a tap on my shoulder. I turned around, and there he was again, the same man. He looked even more unsettled now, his eyes scanning me like he was searching for something. "Jody?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. My stomach dropped. How did he know my name? I didn't recognize him. Was I supposed to remember him from somewhere? "How do you know my name?" I asked, my voice shaky with confusion. The man's face softened, and a faint smile tugged at his lips. He stepped closer, his eyes never leaving mine. "It's me, Ethan. From all those years ago. You used to visit Lenore, remember?" My mind went blank. The name Lenore echoed in my mind, but I couldn't connect it to anything. I felt a rush of memories I couldn't grasp. Who was this man, and why was he speaking about someone I couldn't remember? His presence felt both comforting and alarming. I wanted to understand, but my thoughts were clouded. I stared at him, trying to piece together the fragments of my past. Ethan's words seemed to cut through the fog in my mind. Lenore. The name stirred something inside me, but the memory was distant, like a dream I couldn't fully remember. My mind raced, flashing back to a time long ago. My childhood. I thought of the relatives who had taken me in after the accident, after I lost my parents. I thought of Lenore, the only person who had ever shown me kindness during those dark years. But why hadn't I thought of her in so long? I had lost touch with everyone, but Lenore had always been different. She was the one who made me feel less alone. Ethan's voice pulled me from my thoughts. "She's here," he said, his voice trembling. "Lenore's in the hospital, Jody. She's awake. She's waiting to see you." My heart skipped a beat. After all these years, after all the time I spent feeling abandoned, here was Lenore, alive and waiting for me. The questions flooded in. Why was she in the hospital? Why hadn't I known? What had happened to her? I couldn't hold back the tears that threatened to fall. I had imagined this moment in so many different ways, but nothing could have prepared me for this. Ethan led me to Lenore's room. With every step, my anxiety grew. I tried to steady my breathing, but it was impossible. I couldn't believe this was really happening. When we reached the door, I paused for a moment, unable to move. What if she didn't remember me? What if so many years had changed us both? What if she didn't want to see me? The questions spiraled, and my heart pounded in my chest. Ethan turned to me and gave me a reassuring look. "It's okay, Jody," he whispered. "She's been waiting for this moment." Ethan opened the door gently and stepped inside. I followed him, my heart in my throat. Lenore was lying in the bed, her face pale but peaceful. I froze for a moment, just staring at her. This was Lenore, my Lenore, the woman who had once cared for me when no one else would. But she was older now, and the hospital bed seemed to make her look fragile. I stood there, uncertain of how to approach her. Was this really happening? I blinked, hoping to clear the doubts clouding my mind. "Lenore," I whispered, almost afraid to speak too loudly. Lenore's eyes fluttered open at the sound of my voice. Her gaze locked with mine, and for a moment, time seemed to stop. I couldn't breathe. It was her, just like I remembered. She smiled weakly, her face lighting up with recognition. "Jody," she whispered, her voice soft but filled with emotion. I could hardly believe it. After all these years, here she was, the woman who had always been there for me, even when I didn't understand it. I took a step forward, tears welling up in my eyes. "I missed you so much," I said, my voice trembling with emotion. Lenore's smile faded slightly, and she looked at me with an expression full of regret. "I should have told you, Jody," she said, her voice breaking. "I've been sick for a while now. I didn't want you to worry. I wanted to find you. But after you were moved, I couldn't." Her words hit me hard. She had been trying to find me all these years? I hadn't known. I had no idea how much she had cared. It felt like a weight had lifted off my shoulders, but there was also a sadness that I couldn't shake. Why had we lost so much time? The room was filled with silence, except for the soft hum of the machines around us. I felt overwhelmed by everything that had happened. The years of separation, the pain, the loneliness. But now, Lenore was here. She had always been the one person who had cared for me, and I realized that I had never really stopped needing her. My heart ached as I looked at her, this woman who had sacrificed so much to become a nurse, to help others. "I'm sorry," Lenore whispered again, her eyes filled with sorrow. "I didn't want to burden you, but I've always wanted to be there for you." I squeezed her hand, trying to comfort her, but the words felt so small compared to the emotions swirling inside me. "I'm just glad you're here," I said quietly. "I thought I'd lost you forever." Lenore nodded slowly, a tear escaping from her eye. "We both lost so much time, Jody," she said, her voice trembling. "But I'm here now. I'm not going anywhere." Her words filled me with warmth, but there was also a deep sadness. Why had it taken so long for us to find each other again? What had kept us apart for so many years? Ethan, who had been standing quietly in the corner, stepped forward and placed a hand on Lenore's shoulder. "She's right, Jody," he said softly. "We've both been through a lot, but now we have a chance to make up for the lost years." I looked at him, feeling a wave of gratitude wash over me. I hadn't known how much they had both cared, how much they had both wanted to be there for me. But the road ahead was still uncertain. Lenore was sick, and I didn't know what the future held. But for the first time in a long time, I felt hope. As I left Lenore's room that night, I felt a strange sense of peace. I still didn't have all the answers, but I knew one thing for sure. Lenore and Ethan were a part of my life again. And no matter what the future held, we would face it together. The years apart had hurt us both, but we still had a chance to rebuild. I didn't know what would come next, but I was no longer afraid. For the first time in years, I felt like I wasn't alone. The road ahead was uncertain, but it was ours to walk together.